Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining our webinar for our end-to-end process automation from full order to cash and asset lifecycle. This is the webinar 4 of a series of 4, and I have a couple of folks that are going to be driving the conversation today. We have Michael Salimi, who is our solution engineer, and we have David Van Sina, who is our chief architect. Please take a screenshot of this so that you can get all the recordings. This is the last of the series, and we are really thankful for everyone joining today. So let's start with the agenda. David's going to talk about the challenges in energy and oil and gas, and then I'll turn it over to Michael, and he'll be doing a demonstration from winning to work, really closing those revenue leaks. And then we'll turn it over to David to really talk about the architectural imperative and really how you're going to build that business case. And we'll open it up for a panel discussion at the end. Before we get started, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. We're super excited that you're here, and we hope that you find this content relevant to what's going on in your organization. Again, please feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A. Please don't use the chat. We're going to be taking those questions at the end and answering them on the spot. At the end of the series today, I will be sending out an FAQ with all the questions that have been asked over the all the sessions, so everyone will have access to that information. All right, so let's get into it.
Thank you, Melanie, and she's done quite a bit in organizing all of us here. So again, my name is Michael Salemi, Solutions Engineer, Client Solutions, Industry Practitioner for Energy, Oil and Gas, live around the Houston area. So I picked this quote because I think it really speaks to what large, major energy companies are looking at, investing in AI at scale as a way to improve their operational efficiency, a way to realize more margins, ways to drive out waste. And they're doing that across multiple areas of their business. You can tell just by the sheer scale of the investment and the sheer amount of profits that are being drawn. So I just picked this as something I think is interesting because it sets the tone. And myself, having worked around oil and gas and energy companies for the past 30 years, living here in Houston, we see that the energy industry drives operational efficiency, being able to do digital customer interactions, being able to have better service, better field service. That's what the session is today around delivering on contracts and booking the revenue. You're going to hear me say that revenue and margins are between the win and the work, right? So optimizing that loop between actually signing the contract and getting the delivery done. And so closing that loop between signing the contract and closing the business and actually delivering excellent operational service is really just a blend of automation, things we've always done, and then being able to connect things that are not typically connected, right? So the field operations as well as the field service. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Salesforce is real great at this. We have solutions in that area. MuleSoft has some really great ways to bridge those that are running different platforms, and that's what we're talking about today. So we're going to continue the story that we spoke about for the past 3 weeks. We've been telling the story about Lone Star Oil. Lone Star Oil is a fictitious company, and for the past 3 weeks, we've seen them go on a journey to improve their operations. The COO first looked at reactive maintenance and how to improve it. Then the COO got together and did some proactive maintenance. And then last week, we saw the COO wanted to do better at planned maintenance and turnaround, large complex things. So we've been building off of this story and doing some things now for quite a while. There's webinar series 1, 2, and 3 that go into that if you want more details. Their day sales outstanding are higher than their industry peers. The ability to collect on that revenue, the ability to predict our service delivery and asset health on contract performance. There's a gap there that COO wants to optimize. So he speaks to his IT director and says, what can we do to improve this business process? Our sales team closes these great high margin deals. How can we ensure that there's flawless, profitable delivery and we don't lose revenue between the contract signing and the field execution? And so the IT manager goes, we've got this great Salesforce, Agentforce Sales. It's amazing. We've got a bunch of information in the ERP and we've got a bunch of information in asset systems. The data are disconnected. And she remembers these past few weeks that they've been bringing agents in from each of those systems, and she's heard that their ERP agent, could be Oracle or SAP, is being brought online. So she wants to bring in the agent that can do financial take orders and billing and such. And so she starts thinking about it and says, I think we can optimize a very labor intensive process from contract signing to delivery. And so she goes to her lead developer who did some of those other things and says, lead developer Janice, let's think about that parts, that maintenance, that asset health. Now let's bring in our sales contract, performance obligations information we have. Let's bring in our financial agent from maybe it's an SAP or, like I said, an Oracle financials. Let's bring those agents in that are already built. And Janice, let's just orchestrate it now with the agents that you've already done, the agents you've already got to work together these past 3 weeks. So Janice does what she does best. She maps out the business process. She looks at the cross domains. She sees there's an order agent and a billing agent. She doesn't build agents. She's just registering the agents that already exist and makes them talk to the other agents safely. So we take a step back and we look, this very efficient end-to-end process now done through agents. Before Agent Fabric, an order to cash really crossed a bunch of silos. You've got the sales manager, the EVP of sales, you've got Janice, who's developers trying to orchestrate it, Oscar in operations, the COO, and then the contractor workforce. All these people today share information to deliver on a contract. And so what Janice does is she knows there's agents in each of those domains, and she uses Agent Fabric to transform that very complex and very much disconnected quote to cash process into a very continuous, automated, highly secure loop where the ERP and the CRM receive information in real time. It's trusted data, safe, secure with our class leading policies, governance, and such, improving revenue capture and customer experience. So that's the goal of the operation manager. So Janice gets to work and builds this when to work Agent Fabric demo. And she maps out, like all good architects, the high level strategy. We're going to pull together the financials agent now with our work orders, with our Salesforce customer information, with our sales contracts and performance obligations, who is available in the work service. We're going to layer in the required information from document repositories that govern how we safely operate, whether it's compliance for the entity in which we operate or for the region in which we operate, documentation, maybe things that are necessary for sales, like highly engineered product documentation, sales information, proposals and such, and then safety information and such. And so all of this is now able to work together and be able to respond to prompts from collaboration tools like process this new B2B contract for the North Sea Energy customer, confirm inventory, schedule priority shipment, and also ensure the asset health for the required resources are available, healthy, and we can generate a real-time compliant final invoice. So a lot's being done to take the order and ensure we have the proper infrastructure that is ready to handle it. Just like every time before, Janice pulls together and assembles all the agents through our process. She doesn't build an agent. She's just using those assets that already exist. She finds the SAP and the such, she orchestrates them together. She applies appropriate policies so that it's safer than it is manual. You'll see the COO notices that safety goes up, compliance goes up, and we get some speed. And the entire time, there's a human in the loop observing everything that's going on. This is all built with standard protocols, industry standards. And so there's nothing proprietary in terms of the protocol in that regard. The end-to-end process, again, she discovers those assets that Lone Star already was already built. They didn't need to build anything or build out any other assets. I already have agents from Salesforce and all these places. It's real easy to govern them. She goes into her designer called Anypoint Code Builder and leverages a very productive AI agent to be able to build out her agent network. We're gonna look at that just real quick. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is our Anypoint code builder. And this agent right here is available right here to be able to build up my agent network. I've already brought in my order agent and inventory agent and parts agent and such. I would just show what the MPC or MCP servers would be. I'd love to sit with a workshop with you someday and really walk you through how this is done. So if that's interesting, more on those workshops at the end of this. So assembles those agents together. And then governance, right? So governance, we have out-of-the-box policies, Gardner leading policy, security. We layer in those, so we make sure there's circuit breaker policies, there's AI detection policies, there's all sorts of things you would imagine. Love to talk more with you about that. Secure, it's easy, 100% in control of automation and agents. We can see what the agents are, what they're doing, a tremendous amount of transparency. And then there's tracing that we can have call records of who did what and said what in terms of the agents. And really the surface area to be able to interact with it is as simple as Slack. Now it could be Slack, it could be Teams, it could be any of those common interfaces for chatting. Happy to talk with you about that. However, it looks like this is Slack, and this is a prompt that I put in at 12:21. It's 2:20 right now, so that was about an hour or two ago. Schedule those. And this processed, figured out what inventory was for the order, figured out what shipment and what work orders were necessary, generated invoices in the ERP for the parts that were verified in the ERP. It did testing on the assets that are needed to fulfill that order. It gave notifications if there's any assets that aren't available. It notified everybody proactively, no reactive anymore. And then it gave next steps and actions required. And then it just sat there, human in the loop. It would continue if I say go ahead. So it's pretty neat. This agent's got a lot of stuff. We've looked at a lot of things over the weeks that this does. Just what we now have got is an automated assurance that we've optimized the process, the very complex process across multiple human steps. The CEO is, wow, Janice, again, one more rapid orchestration with existing agents, got in Salesforce for contract performance obligations, the ERP for invoicing and billing. And this is really how LSO, Lone Star Oil, solved that revenue leakage problem, right? Easily 3 to 5% just off of free cash flow by things that are unpredicted. So on these large orders, improving that and the days outstanding will certainly also make the CFO really happy. So that is really what's been going on here at Lone Star Oil. You can see it's all done with our agent fabric. I want to go ahead and hand it to David, who's going to really go into his architectural strategies and additional advanced ways on how you can prove or how you can choose and figure out if you're ready for these use cases. David?
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. What we're going to take a look at next is Michael's done a great job over all four of these webinars in the series of laying out use cases, laying out business objectives that can be achieved with agentic technology, and some of the ways that we go about helping from a platform technology perspective in delivering those. But before you can begin to take advantage of those technologies, you first of all got to have the organizational readiness and the design and execution capability in order to bring it to fruition. In the oil and gas industry, there's got to be a structure, there's got to be a framework, there's got to be a plan for success. So what I want to talk about next is how we help guide you toward executable plans for these kinds of solutions. Through the webinar series, I've talked many times about our agentic transformation workshop and its 4 phases, the art of the possible, beginning to expose to your organization what the real capabilities are of agentic technology and some of the realities of what they can do and what they're maybe not so good at. Enterprise readiness, assessment of use cases, which we talked about in our last event, and then finally architecture. So today we're going to talk about parts 2 and 4 here. So a little bit out of sequence, but we do these transformation workshops in the sequence that makes sense for you and your organization. They don't all have to be done 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we'll first talk about is organizational readiness. How do you know if your organization is truly ready to begin taking advantage of these technologies? We look at it in 5 different dimensions. The first is strategy. readiness. In other words, does your organization have a well-considered, all stakeholders consulted idea of how AI technology is going to be brought to bear and where it's going to provide value? And this can be, you can be anywhere on this spectrum, from experimentation to leading with a fully fleshed out AI-driven business model and continuous improvement and feedback mechanisms. But the first thing we want to assess is, are you strategically ready? Is the organization philosophically prepared to begin taking advantage of this technology? Next is expertise and culture. And this has to do with the organization's sort of personal readiness. At the individual level, are people ready culturally to adopt AI technologies? And has the investment been made to give people the technological skills to understand what AI can do, how to use it, and so on? The next dimension is security and guardrails. Anybody who is implementing systems of any sort is always concerned with security and access controls and so forth, no less so with AI. Do you have the technical and the policy foundations in place to understand how AI is being used, what kind of inputs it's consuming and outputs it's producing? Are there mechanisms in place for understanding when violations or potential violations are happening, so that you can govern and control and use this technology responsibly? The fourth dimension is the technology platform. All of this stuff has to run somewhere. Much of it might be running in the cloud, but you've always got dependencies on internal systems as well. The ability for agents to be effective is dependent largely on not just the ability of the large language model to interpret and answer questions, but also to initiate actions and to have those actions readily available. And your technology platform is a big determinant of that, and we're going to talk about composability and how that factors in the second part of my section here. But evaluating the readiness in terms of the technology platform is the question of data readiness. Is your data, number one, readily accessible? Are the data assets that your organization has available understood in terms of their provenance? Has the data quality been assessed? Is only the right data being made available? Is there sufficient governance over sensitive data so that it's not finding its way into agentic processes or outputs where it should not be? So having good control over your data estate, as I said, is foundational to any of this. So our assessment is going to begin with looking at all 5 of these dimensions, and we are going to help you assess your readiness in 2 different ways. One is subjective assessments based on the perception of stakeholders and other participants in the organization. The other is objective, where we do some technical analysis to see what's really there and available, and we'll touch on both of those. The subjective part of the analysis comes here when we look at an agentic readiness assessment. This largely consists of surveys provided to stakeholders and participants in the process, where they can look at each of the 5 dimensions of readiness and the subcategories of capabilities within those dimensions, make their own assessment of where you're at in terms of your maturity, whether it's level 0 experimenting or all the way up to level 4 leading. We take this information and then we can graph it and plot it in various ways, but it gives us a good sense, and you, most importantly, a good sense of where your organization's at in terms of its readiness to adopt these technologies. So that's the subjective part of the assessment. Now, when we start to look at technical architecture, we begin to get a little more objective about it. When we think about the agentic enterprise, it's first of all worthwhile to look at the relative levels of maturity and efficiency and just understand where you're at and how one level builds on the next. Now, all organizations are complex. We've talked in previous sessions in this series about the large number of applications and interactions that take place across a variety of business domains. We've spoken a little bit about how to tackle that with composability, but that ascension through these levels is ultimately what gets you to the point that you can begin taking advantage of agentic technologies effectively. Now, when we're thinking about all of this complexity, we have to think about how do we deal with it? How do we tackle it? And we do it by employing the same kind of engineering techniques that are used in software engineering and even in other engineering disciplines of number one, understanding patterns. Number two, finding places where those patterns exist and defining abstractions so that components can be fit together, and then designing interfaces that allow those components in the organization to communicate with one another effectively without unhelpfully exposing details that prevent changes from taking place in the future. We refer to all of this as composability, and it is, as this slide says, the foundation for agility at scale. When we think about composability and its benefits, the principles involved are discovery, modularity, orchestration, and autonomy. Now, what do we get from those? Discovery expands the pool of resources that you have available to build solutions, because rather than having to build everything from scratch all the time, you can take components off the shelf and reuse them. Modularity is the ability to plug components into different scenarios and have them do jobs in different business cases, but do them well because that module has already been built and tested. Orchestration is the process of binding those modules into new processes. All of this fosters a much better partnership between IT and the business, because rather than talking about speeds and feeds and bits and bytes, we can talk about the ability to process orders, the ability to do more effective exploration, the ability to do more effective monitoring of hardware and systems in the infrastructure. Now, lest all of this be thought a pure software exercise, let me point out that the Association of Supply Chain Management, in its definitions of how to build and deliver physical products, also talks about modular design. Components or subassemblies that can be used in current and future products, or using the same items to build a variety of finished goods. The ability to use common components in order to increase quality and build speed and so on. So what we're talking about here is not merely a software abstraction, but it is the application of good engineering techniques to the practice of integration and to facilitate agentic implementations. Now, we borrow techniques from the software engineering domain of domain-driven design, and it is the process that allows us to look at different business domains, understand the interactions between them, and define these interfaces, abstractions, and patterns that we spoke of earlier. These ultimately get assembled into a set of composable units that are often represented as APIs, or application program interfaces, and those APIs might provide, for instance, your SAP system, an abstract way of getting order information, placing orders, canceling orders, providing order updates. Now, the power here and where it all comes together is that these capabilities now become the tools that your agents can use. So we'll use them to build orchestrated processes, but they are reusable now as tools that you can put in the hands of your headless agents. So the use case Michael talked about earlier, being able to type something into Slack or Teams or your messaging engine of choice and have an agent go out, find the right tools, access the right systems, and produce accurate, fast results. This is what comes from having a good architecture. Now, we did some objective assessments where we can scan your environment and determine the objects in green here are things that already exist. And as Michael talked about earlier, we can put MCP interfaces on those to make them available tools for your new worker agents. Things in red might be things you'd have to build for, in this case, an automated financial close, or recycled content traceability, or a proactive shipment delay resolution process. So we have technology that can assess your environment, determine what API assets you have available, and begin giving you a blueprint showing what do you have that's reusable components and what would you need to build in order to create these use cases. So lots of great stuff that we can bring you, all part of the Agentic Transformation Workshop series, and hopefully we will have the opportunity to work with you on one of these at some point in the future.
Yeah, so if y'all want to scan the QR code here, that gets you a chance to win, or not a chance. We'll send you a Max the plushie. It's a great opportunity, and we're asking you to just fill out a quick survey. Should take no more than 20 seconds and answer some questions for us. With that, we'll reach out and we'll get the Max the plushie to you. I think we have a couple of questions that I've gotten from the attendees today. David and Michael, are you okay if we tackle a couple of those?
We'll probably have
Yeah,
to do it quickly, but yep, let's go.
yeah, we have
Okay,
time. We can make
so
them quick.
one of the ones is, what frameworks or integration layers are you seeing that keep autonomy from becoming anarchy?
Yeah, with these new agentic things, effective frameworks are really more important than they ever have been with what's going on. And so, a multi layered approach to security, and then adding the appropriate layers with what's going on out there. So, the agents can operate within clear boundaries. And rather than every agent acting independently, the orchestration layers and the separation of concerns between them, like SOCs and separation of concerns, is even important too. So, there's a lot we could bring around those kinds of things, but that's basically what we're seeing in terms of some of these folks who are doing this the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. There's one more. I like this question. With so many siloed platforms, ERP, refinery control, logistics, finance, what's the biggest barrier to achieving connected intelligence today? Who wants to tackle that one?
The barriers are, in fact, all of those different systems and the different protocols and the different security mechanisms and so forth. It is the integration problem that is the problem, because without well-connected data and capabilities placed at the hands, if you will, of the agent can't make smart assessments and it can't initiate reliable actions. So that to me is the very justification for the architectural planning and the design approach that MuleSoft has advocated for a very long time. The reason why organizations that have invested in good architecture and in good software engineering practices for integration are now reaping those benefits as we move into the agentic world, because they've already built the foundation and the tools. It's never too late to start, but those that have done so are the ones that are reaping the benefits by breaking down those silos.
Thanks so much, David. I will be reaching out directly to all the attendees that were able to register or attended any of the sessions. And hopefully one of those workshops that David and Michael talked about today would be a next step in discussing how MuleSoft can really help in the oil and gas space at your company. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great one.